All praises, honor, and glory, as always, goes to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rukaha Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Lord willing, this one will be edifying and quick. So it's a quick cut. As we know, in this world, women, the daughters of Zion, specifically the so-called black woman, Eve, she has a certain curse on her when it comes to her hair, right? I have it here. I could just read it real quick before I play the video. So it says Isaiah chapter 3 verse 17. It says, therefore Yahweh will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. And this is talking about their hair, the growth of their hair. They have a spiritual curse, which is physical, on this side, that they go through, they live through. So what's the spirit that these women have? They already naturally have a righteous spirit of, loving their hair, because the glory of a woman is her hair. I remember a time when this Eve I was dealing with, she found out, something. She thought something about the next girl, and she wicked, they crying over other women and shit like that. She said what helped her was, sitting down in front of the mirror and brushing her hair and combing her hair. And she said to me, you're right. My hair, I realized why you say the glory of a woman is her hair. And she said, because it was comforting, just looking and brushing their hair. They love their hair, man. These women are in love with their hair, but they're made that way. So because of their circumstances, the curse that they're hit with, they don't have long hair naturally. Most so-called black women, 90% of them. So they wear weave and they wear fake hair and shit like that, which is a vibration of the world. However, this is something that has been happening in history for a long time, because this is their glory. So they're gonna flock to things like that. They're gonna want to put in false hair, fake hair, to feel pretty, to feel good about themselves, right? But when it comes to a man, right, that's not what it's supposed to be. But here we have locks installs. So if you want to have locks and you don't have the hair as a man, you can follow the woman and get a wig, which is wicked. But America is Babylon the Great for a reason, and Babylon means confusion. So you're gonna have a lot of confusing behaviors that you're gonna witness. And this is one amongst many. And this dude right here, he's an alphabet flagger, man. You could just tell by the way how he's carrying himself. That's the community he's from, right? But this is off. This is wicked, right? Because the scriptures tell us. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14. Doth not nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him? Right? Because why are you competing with a woman? Why do you want to have long hair? Why do you want to have such a feminine quality hair, going down in your face? Nothing, men can have, cane or braids, but that doesn't mean your hair is long. And that's not the same type of vibration as a woman, having your hair in your face past your neck. That's wicked, man. And verse 15 says, but if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given her for a covering. So it's a reason the Lord made women to have long hair. He didn't make man to have long hair, because these men are Nazarites. They're not keeping the Nazarite vow. That's not something that was, so common that every man was a Nazarite. No, like, it's a vow that you take with Yahweh Shem Shai, right? And it's not because, I want to show off my hair, make a video of myself on social media like this, for attention. All these mannerisms that women have, men are displaying on social media, man, which is crazy, man. We already have our women, going home and taking off wigs and like, oh, fuck, where'd your hair go? Which is fucking through anyways. But their circumstance is different because they're cursed. So their reason for doing it is not the same as a man. Like, he's supposed to be a man, a real man, but he's not. Because he is portraying this image of, lustful image, right? And let me just read the precepts, man. This is through, man. Like, there's nothing you're not gonna see in these times. We can confidently say, like, when it comes to wickedness, we've seen it all, man. These Israelite men just get worse and worse and worse. You know, changing substituting, the roles. Doing things that women are supposed to do. And women also are doing things that men are supposed to do. That's why this place is through, man. It's confusion. Abad Babal, which means death to Babylon, right? Death to America. This is 1 John 2:16. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, which that is a lust of the flesh, man. And the lust of the eyes, looking for attention, going on social media, looking for attention from men and women. Because that's how wicked these niggas are, man. You have niggas that they say they're straight, but they post even for attention from men, post certain things to get feedback from, people and friends. It's like that's a off end spirit to have, man. Like, social media is witchcraft. It has your mind thinking to do dumb shit, post dumb shit for dumb reasons to get a reaction. Because if you're only gonna post on social media for some type of feedback? Otherwise, there's no point in posting. So it doesn't mean that it's always wicked, but if you're gonna post yourself, do a video of yourself, wearing a wig, a lock install, you're doing all of that for attention, man. You're doing all of that because of the lust, the lust for attention, the lust for eyes on you. And it goes on to say, and the pride of life, and that's full of pride, man. The internet, social media is a prideful place. And let me start from the top. So it says, all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. Now, we already know these Negroes are of the world. You're not of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, because the scriptures tell you to abstain from all appearances of evil. And if you were to tell men that, having long hair is evil, they'll be like, nah, you're dramatic. You're overdoing it. That's not true. Well, yes, it is, man, because it goes against the orders of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. It's not our custom. If I can go back, the next verse, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 16 says, but if any man seem to be contentious, if you want to argue about it, right, we have no such custom, neither the churches of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, right? So we don't have, that's not a part of our customs. We don't do that shit, man. So this is Galatians chapter 5, verse 16, and it says, then I say, walk in the Spirit. These men are not walking in the Spirit. These women are not walking in the Spirit. And what's walking in the Spirit? Walking according to the instructions of the scriptures, man. The word. Walking in accordance to the truth. The righteous instructions of the Bible. Do not have long hair. Do not have long hair that is hanging down in your face like a woman. You're moving your hair out of your face like a fucking bitch, man. That's off. That's very feminine. And it says, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. We all, battle stuff like that. Battle the lust of the flesh and certain things such as that. However, what he is doing, what these men are doing today, with the image of long hair is off. It's the complete lust of the flesh, man. And verse 17 says, for the flesh lusteth against the spirit, right? Because the spirit is contrary to what these men are doing. Spirit is contrary to men having long hair. It's not in agreement. So you're letting your flesh Salakia, you're letting your flesh rule your life, and your appearance. And it says, and the spirit against the flesh, these are, see, I didn't even know it was going to say that. These are contrary, the one to the other, so that they cannot do things that ye would. But if ye be led of the Spirit, ye are not under the law. But if ye be led of the Spirit, you are not under the law. Because you'll be in accord, you will be in agreement. You would be in line and you would do the right things, man. Verse 20 said, idolatry, witchcraft, social media, hatred, variance, emulation, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, all these things are wicked, man. But the point is, man, having long hair as a man is just a lust of the flesh, lusting for attention from women. No man is having long hair just to have it. They're doing it to attract women, man, or men, because these men are sodomites as well. Which all of them need to die, because whichever way you turn it, in order to be in this truth and actually walk upright and according to the spirit, you're gonna cut your hair. You're gonna not have long hair that resembles a woman's hair. You're not gonna have hair dangling down in your face. You're not gonna have hair that's in your back. That's just wicked. This is 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 2, and it says, "For men shall be lovers of their own selves." This is all, the spirit of knowing your worth, and nothing is wrong with knowing your worth, but it can get to a point where it's excessive when you love yourself too much. You're obsessed with yourself too much. You're thinking too much of yourself. You're looking in the mirror and looking at your hair and like, yeah, I look good. And nothing is wrong with having confidence, but it's a certain spirit of the world that men carry themselves and women carry themselves with. It's a very feminine spirit to be doing stuff like that, right? Nothing's wrong with doing certain things with just your woman, and your woman doing that for your audience of women, but like doing stuff like that can be too much. It's a covetous boasters, because these people are boasters, man, boasting in the flesh, proud blasphemers. They're blaspheming Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. They don't believe in Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. They're not honoring the words and the instructions of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. Right? So again, it says, verse 2, for men, 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 2, for men shall be lovers of their own selves. Right? And that's the example we saw. It was simply put, man, that was just a man that's just a man that's confused, living in the land of Babylon, following the ways of these women, shaming themselves while doing it, showing wicked appearances, loving themselves more than Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, looking for attention. And this is the spirit that the world is in right now. These men, attention seekers. But this video is just meant to, rebuke this type of shit, man. Like I never thought I would see, a lock install, like a wig for a man, which is crazy, man. It's fucking crazy. So Paul already gave these instructions, but we know our people are very, very, very wicked and disobedient. They don't think the words of Paul comes from Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Paul himself learned from Yahweh Shai, so why would he instruct people falsely? It's just common sense. The way how he delivered this, and I'm going to read it again, he delivered it in a way of it being common knowledge, like you're supposed to know this. However, he went on to, the Israelites that were going off and didn't know they were Israelites and so on and so forth, correcting them and then teaching them. So common sense will let you know that being a Nazirite is completely different from this instruction, because in general, all, majority of the Israelite men were never Nazirites. Specific men took that vow. So this is 1 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 14. It says, "Doth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him? But if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given her for a covering." Right? But what you're to understand is the glory of a man is his woman. So you should glory in her beauty. She's yours. She has long hair. You shouldn't be competing with her, saying, I'm going to take your glory. I can have long hair too. Let me get this word shame real quick, and then I'll close. It's not meant to be long at all. This is a simple thing. But men, I think it's 13. Right, so let me get the word shame. Because these men don't see it as a shame. Like, why are you competing with a woman? Dishonor, disgrace, ignominy. But it's a disgrace, man. It's a disgrace for a man to have long hair. And that's just that. That's what Yahweh Hashem Yahushai said. And if you're walking in the spirit and not after your flesh, you're not going to be contrary to that. You're going to fall in line and you're going to do what you're supposed to do. You know? There's no reason a man needs to have long hair like a fucking bitch, man. That's off. So with that, all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham. Always goes to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rukaha Kodash, Abad Babal.